welcome to Nerds of the Old Republic. I'm Adam.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Mike.
In each episode, we discuss a different book or film from the wide world of nerddom and pair it with a unique cocktail. Today we're enjoying a drink optimistically called Death in the Afternoon while we talk about Neil Gaiman's epic graphic novel, The Sandman. So, this was Mike's drink, and I am so freaking excited to try absinthe for the first time. Would you mind, though, describing what we're drinking?
Absolutely. So, Death in the Afternoon is actually coined as such by no less than Ernest Hemingway himself.
Yeah, at least a point for Mike.
In his book of the same name, Death of the Afternoon, I've read much Ernest Hemingway, but not that particular one. Have you gentlemen encountered that one? Or
Same thing. No, I can't say so.
I know it's about bullfighting.
It is. It's a nonfiction book about bullfighting, from what I understand. But in it, he has this drink. You can find the recipe online, and it's extremely complicated. It's 2 ingredients. The first and most important being absinthe. So get yourself some absinthe.
I thought it was going to be death in that afternoon.
Well, that would stand to reason. Yeah. And then the other ingredient is champagne, and it turns it into this nice, very nice looking, sort of cloudy, yellowish, greenish color. We haven't tried it yet, but it looks nice.
Yeah.
Coats the glass.
Yeah, it coats the glass a little bit, and Sean was saying that it actually reminds him of grapefruit juice, just the consistency of it, the looks. Yeah, it's intriguing because it smells like licorice.
It does, like black licorice.
I've never had absinthe before,
So I've had absinthe one time in New Orleans at a bar where they actually had the whole thing set up, and it drips, slowly over the sugar cube and into the glass, and that was my only experience with it.
Well, let's trip some balls.
All right, gentlemen.
Cheers
to you.
Cheers.
That is something else.
Yeah, that's one way to describe it.
It tastes the way it smells.
It does. Yeah. That is all licorice right at the front, right at the back, and right at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And with a nice, it's black licorice with a nice fizziness. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I've had medicines that taste better than this.
Oh. Yeah. At first I thought it was called Death in the Afternoon because absinthe is like high proof.
Yes.
Now it might just be the taste. And I like black licorice. That's the thing. I always eat the black jelly beans.
Yeah, you're a weirdo.
Well, this is true. That's fine.
The best part is the quote, the accompanying quote with Ernest Hemingway's recipe is that he recommends having 4 or 5 of these in the afternoon, and that you drink them slowly, but 4 or 5 of them.
So Hemingway's slowly would have been like, take 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about a man who did crash a plane twice, if I'm not mistaken, or was in a plane crash twice.
Yeah, survived 2 plane crashes, yeah.
If you can drink 4 or 5 of these Hemingway slowly, you can take a plane crash, no problem.
It does warm the gullet, though.
It sure does.
Yeah.
It is in Western New York right now, which is where our recording studio is. 7 degrees outside? So.
Optimistically,
yeah. I can attest to it being that
7.
cold.
Damn.
For sure.
That is awful.
I think the second sip was better than the first.
I can agree with that. I'm swirling mine now to let it breathe a little bit.
This reminds me of that scene that end of 1984 where Winston's talking about the oily gin and the cloves and he's
victory
like, it gets worse, not better, as you drink more of it.
But I've got a feeling that this one will get better, or at least at a certain point, you just won't taste anything anymore.
I'm hoping.
Exactly.
This is no offense at all. I mean, this is
to the fine people at Absinthe.
No, we all tried
big Absinthe.
Try to do different things. It's just
for sure.
It's just not for me.
And that's all right.
We picked this drink because it was cool because it's an Ernest Hemingway drink, but we always try to pair these cocktails with something thematically that we're reading. So, being that we're talking about Sandman and the concept of dreaming, and Absinthe has this, long storied history as being, supposedly hallucinogenic and so on, we thought, let's do an absinthe-based drink. And then when we found the Hemingway one, that just seemed like a no-brainer at that point.
I actually thought you picked it because Death in the Afternoon is what it feels like to teach lately.
It does. I mean, to live in the modern world lately feels a little bit like that. But you mentioned the name, and death is another connection, of course, to the series. So, yeah, lots of good reasons why we picked the drink. Not a good drink, but lots of good reasons why we picked it.
We'll let everybody else decide their own opinions, though.
True.
Even though, like, I'm enjoying this, and I bet you the third one is going to be fantastic.
I'm going to go ahead and back that up. That third sip was pretty damn good just now.
Yeah.
Your experience will vary.
Exactly. And if you are interested in Death in the Afternoon, make sure to check us out. nerdsoftheoldrepublic.podbeam.com or any of the socials. That's at Nerds of Old Republic. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Good Pods, Good Reads, you name it, we're there. So find us at it.
Good feet.
Good Feet is actually... That's a store and also a BDSM kind of thing. We're not there yet. We're not there.
On our OnlyFans, though.
It's not just porn now. Everybody says that. It's not just porn. We were there before it was... No, we were there when it was porn. All right. Speaking of personal experiences, let's talk about Sandman and what everybody had like coming into it. What were your personal experiences with the text prior to reading it for this, and then maybe while you were reading it too?
Well, I had read most of the series years ago, many years ago, and I remembered enjoying it very much. I had read the first 8 volumes. There's 10 total, and I'm not sure, why I didn't finish. I'm sure life just interceded, and I got distracted and didn't get back to it. But now having reread the first 4, which is what we, decided to read for this podcast, I enjoyed it again, and we'll talk about all that. But I think that this time I will finish it. This time I'm committed to pushing the rest of the way through and reading 9 and 10 as well.
I feel like this is a theme, though, with you, Mike. Like, when we come to a text, it's a text that you've, like, started, and, like, you started, and I have a lot of those, too. So.
Saga was one of those.
Yeah, I feel like we're helping you just, like, be completist here.
That's why I actually, when you started this podcast, Adam, about a year ago, I thought, no, here's the thing that can force me to finish all the half-reads on my list. So I had ulterior motives.
Well, I'm glad we're serving some purposes here and some masters. Sean, how about you?
I never read it, but I was a huge comic book nerd in the late 80s, early 90s, and through pretty much the middle 90s. And, I had subscriptions to Amazing Spider-Man and stuff like that because I was, and am a dork. But that's
why we're here.
I started off in the DC world with Batman and some of the grittier stuff, which is bizarre because you would think a younger kid would start off with Marvel because it's more fun. But I remember having awareness of Sandman and reading comments in like Wizard magazine and stuff about how amazing Sandman is, and just like it's this pinnacle of graphic novel and art, and it transcends the genre. So I always had this opinion in the back of my mind, like that's something I should read, and I never did until now. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. Yeah, it was. But again, it was just knowing that it was out there and kind of the accolades and the the respect that it had garnered over the years.
It's interesting. I come at this from a similar angle too, like loving comic books, but never reading graphic novels until being really in college and like young adulthood. In probably my mid-20s, I read Watchmen. I did the Dark Knight stuff with Alan Moore too, and then I came. Just became aware of the genre as a phenomenal way to convey a story that typical novels don't or can't or didn't at the time. And it's been on my radar for a while. So kind of like Mike, thank you, gents, for the kick in the ass to read this, because as we'll get to in a minute, I really really appreciated it as well, and surprised that it didn't come on my to be read list and hit my hands sooner because of just what I read.
Yeah, well, and listening to you guys talk, I'll say that I'm surprised that I did read it then, because I am never was into comic books at all at any point in my life. Nothing against them, just, not something I was into.
You were just reading Lovecraft.
I was going to point out, you were the gentleman reading Lovecraft in high school, was it?
Oh, before that.
Middle school.
Elementary school Lovecraft, man.
Yeah.
But I read Sandman, and I have read... obviously, Saga. I had read Saga, and I have been meaning to read Watchmen. I read what was the other one? Oh, V for Vendetta by
V.
Alan Moore,
I haven't read
which is
that.
a really good one.
Yeah.
So I like them. I appreciate them. But it's interesting. That you guys this will be good for the cast. You guys are aficionados of the genre, and I'm relatively a newcomer.
We'll guide you through it.
I expect that you will. You forgot the
be
most
gentle.
important ingredient.
Oh, no, I did not. No, I'm going to go with strictly the sparkling wine at the moment.
Yeah, Sean has poured himself another glass of champagne, leaving the absinthe out. I do want to point out, though, before we move too far forward, that you brought a champagne named Poema, which is so on brand. Mm-hmm. It's got a lovely quill writing the name and everything.
Yeah, not an accident. I'm now champagne is I'm a whiskey guy, a Scotch guy. I appreciate a good craft beer. Very much into good red wines. Champagne is not really something that I'm well versed in at all. So my methodology tends to be which one has the coolest label and or name. And this one was it this time. So.
I could see Dream
works.
drinking this bottle.
I would agree with that.
For sure. And actually, that's a really great way to just kind of move us over into the text. So, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, critically acclaimed, definitely commercially successful, even though, as he'll point out repeatedly online to his fans, he does not own any of the rights to any of it. On his webpage, there's a lot of questions like, I want to do a Sandman t-shirt, or a fan fiction, or an opera. People have asked him about making operas. And he's like...
As you would.
Well, yeah, right? I can totally see Dream...
Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Oh, yeah. No, not for this one. It's got to be like someone from the emo days of the 2000s making it.
Robert Smith of The Cure.
Yes.
Should play Dream as well as writing the music for
For a minute,
the
I thought you were
opera.
going to say Robert Pattinson. I'd have to slap you.
Oh, no.
He doesn't need to act. Actually, you do need to act in this one. We'll get to who's acting in him, but straight up a DC license there. They own every single word, image, picture. But, Norman Mailer has called it a comic book for intellectuals. It's been called stunning, remarkable. It's won many literary awards. And, it's had a long and difficult road to the big screen. Netflix is coming out with 11 episodes this year, so that's kind of why we were thinking about having it on the cast. And actually, originally, oh, damn it, what's his name? There was a different actor planned to be Dream himself in 2016, and he dropped out in 2018. Now I can't think of his name.
Channing Tatum?
No, it wasn't Channing Tatum, and it was not Timothée Chalamet, like you thought earlier today.
He looks like Morpheus.
He looks like it.
It was the actor, was it Gordon Levitt?
It was
Josh Gordon Levitt. Is that his name?
Gordon Levitt, yeah.
Something like that. He was Robin in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
He was in Inception.
He was also in
Third Rock
from the Sun.
Yes,
That guy.
yes.
So
he was attached to it for a while. And...
Yeah, he just literally, the internet quoted him as dropping out.
Yeah.
So it's had a long, long road. The volumes we read include Preludes and Nocturnes, Dollhouse, Dream Country, Season of Mists, and I figure we could kind of take it in chronological order, starting with Preludes and Nocturnes, where the magician Roderick Burgess imprisons Morpheus accidentally instead of death. He was aiming for death. But Morpheus goes on a quest to recover his possessions and rebuild his realm when he's, been in prison for 70 years, including a trip to hell and an encounter with Dr. Destiny, also known as John Dee.
Yeah.
What'd you guys come away from that first volume?
I was stunned to see that death is a hottie.
Yeah, I was really intrigued by the whole family, death, desire.
The endless?
The endless, yeah. That's such a cool concept as a family and to personify, too, around. I was just stunned that humans could capture one of these people. Now, obviously, the concept has to be something a little bit absurd, almost like Shakespearean. Like, there's this weird rule that they get to break or make, and so they catch him and they can imprison him for 70 years. That was so fucked up how they just kept, like, peeking in on him and made people stay up forever to watch him.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was having known, like, again, the sphere of the comic and knowing its influence, I guess I expected a little more. And I felt like the artwork was kind of not as high level as I was expecting. Like, I kind of came up in the Todd McFarlane, like, hyper bright colors.
Yeah.
And I know that this kind of, it's DC's affect is that sort of gritty kind of feel to it, but...
In the late 80s as well,
right.
So comic book style as a whole was drastically different.
Right, so I guess that kind of like left me going like, oh, okay, it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I'd always seen like images of the cover art, which was always like this very like, almost like a Tool cover, like album cover or something, like very, I don't know.
Something very metal about it now that you mention it. Absolutely.
It's got an artistic but like a dark kind of look to it, and they're cool. But you don't judge these things by their covers. And then I find the artwork it was uneven because I know there are many different artists collaborating on the different books, and I thought that was interesting to see that. But where the hell was I going with that?
I'm not sure.
You were underwhelmed, I think is the point you're making.
I was generally whelmed, but maybe a little underwhelmed by the artwork.
I could see that. And you know what? The inker and pencilers have changed throughout, but the cover artists remain the same.
Right.
They made the collages for every single volume as they went through.
Right, that consistency was there. I don't know. What was we were looking at that, so the artwork kind of threw me off a little bit, and then I got into you start thinking about the look of Morpheus, and he changes so much.
Yes, he does.
From page to page. I started to wonder: is this like a measure of the artwork, or is it a measure of the character? And that weird ass mask he wears, he's supposed to be this endless, eternal thing, but that mask looks like a total weird sort of steampunk kind of bizarreness to it that kind of jarred for me. I don't know.
From my understanding, the Sandman was a much older character, a sort of obscure character. And again, I come at this from, I'm the ignoramus when it comes to the comic book realm. But my understanding is sort of like Black Panther was a more obscure character that they resurrected and turned into a very important character. That's what the idea was with Sandman. If you read the introductory notes to the thing, the introduction, they were taking what was sort of a superhero character with a loose dream theme to it,
right?
And then they gave it to Neil Gaiman, who of course turned it into this much more large literary philosophical thing. But the mask,
gosh!
But the mask that you brought up, my understanding is that was part of the old, whenever it was, the 1950s or whenever they originally conceived the character. That was part of his superhero costume.
Oh, okay, that makes sense
because it is goofy and there doesn't seem to be any purpose to it when he puts it on. He just sometimes puts it on, and it's it's maybe part of his helm of office or something, but there doesn't seem to be any need for it. I think that Preludes and Nocturnes is one of the less impressive volumes in the entire series. Mm-hmm. I think that this is talked about again in the introductory notes, where they talked about this is where they were really kind of discovering what this was going to be, and Neil Gaiman was finding his voice with it. And that the artists, plural, the artists' opinion is that they really felt it came into its own in the final section, the one with death, which I think would probably be most readers' opinion as well. That's when you feel like something really more special and loftier is happening.
Right.
Whereas prior to that, it had just been sort of I don't want to say bad. It wasn't bad, but a standard dark fantasy fare.
I did read those notes and things, and they did say it took them a little while to find their footing. And I think Death was the huge off-spin character. She had her own series.
I was going to mention as much, that they got their own series because of it.
Right.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say I say all this, but I was deeply fascinated by Morpheus as a character, and I think it was just he's a really interesting character to read about. It's just I didn't know. For me, I had a hard time marrying that storyline and that character with the graphic novel or the comic elements to it. So that, to me, almost felt forced in a way. It didn't feel like it really suited the material as much as I expected it to.
To me, this is not a standout volume in the larger series, except for there's a couple of things about it I really like. You mentioned, Adam, I think you mentioned the introduction before, where they're captured, where they capture him. Mm-hmm. And, just from a writing standpoint, I find that really an interesting choice. We're going to introduce this character by having him actually captured and imprisoned and not say any words for an entire chapter. And we're going to show you his importance, not by the things he does or says, but rather by what happens as a result of his imprisonment.
Yeah, the world goes crazy.
It's really an interesting way to start the series and to introduce the character. And obviously, another thing I like is the last chapter with Death, but the one that I find really haunting every time is the scene in the diner with what's the character's name again? Dr. Destiny, is that what it is? The one where he's like, he's just
guy with
using
teeth for eyes.
No, that's the Corinthian.
Oh, sorry, Corinthian. That's
this one is Dr. D
Country.
or something like that. But he's the one he's sitting in the diner and he's using all these people in the diner become these like playthings. For his entertainment and his amusement.
He's a cellmate with the Scarecrow at Arkham Asylum.
Yes.
Which is how you can tell it's a DC property, because you get the Scarecrow.
Exactly.
Right.
I forgot about that because I was so focused on the weird-ass cereal convention later on in the series with the Corinthian.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has one of the articefacts that Dream needs to recapture,
right.
And he's abusing it and has like tainted it to his own desires and usages while Dream was captured. And I liked that aspect. Like, I've been captured for 70 years. Now's my quest to redeem everything that I had for 70 years.
Rebuild my kingdom.
Yeah.
But I like that section a lot because, if you're like me, if you're a fan of, like, sort of suburban, small-town, lurking horror stuff, like David Lynch, like Twin Peaks kind of stuff, this whole scene in the diner where it's just regular, ordinary characters and their sort of backstories starting to play out in this horrific way in a diner. I mean, that scene is a standout for me. I always enjoy that scene.
It's weird, too, because having read other Gaiman stuff before, like American Gods and, his Norse mythology stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of like that, again, it felt like that doesn't feel like the same author to me. It just felt like lurid for the sake of, DC's adult imprint, whatever. Like, this is,
the Black Label.
Was it Vertigo or something?
Yeah, it was Vertigo, and then Vertigo closed, and they switched it over to DC Black Label.
It's almost like they had like, we need you to have some stuff that only an adult would be interested in. It's cool,
right?
But for me, again, I'm trying to like fit it with my knowledge of the author, and it just got weird.
They initially conceived this though as sort of like a horror-ish thing, and there's a lot of those elements here. And those quickly fall away. I mean, this quickly becomes...
after Volume 1,
It's a dark fantasy, but it quickly becomes like a very philosophical fantasy.
And that's where
the horror just, goes away completely.
That's weirdly where I started to really like it. When I started recognizing elements of his American God stuff.
Yeah.
Like, these creatures like God and Lucifer, they exist because mankind brings them into existence through mutual, like, thought.
Yeah, that's
cool.
a great transition into like Dollhouse and Dream Country, where in the end of Preludes and Nocturnes, he travels into hell. We see Lucifer briefly. Lucifer gets their own spin-off series later on because everyone likes a good devil. And then Doll's House is for me where I thought it really started to hit its stride with the interwoven stories with Rose and the mom and how so when Dream was locked up, it fucked everybody's lives up. Rose's family was really fucked up. But now that Dream's back, her grandmother's awake and alive again, so she's now on a quest to find her brother. And that's a fucked up situation with her brother. Oh my god.
Yeah.
My sons were trying to look, because they love graphic novels too, but obviously they're not reading this.
No.
So every time they'd
Get
come
around,
over,
boys.
I'd shut the book. I'd be like, Daddy's reading his adult book now. Don't look.
Is that the same one where he's the muse is being serially raped by people?
I think that's Volume 3.
That is Dream Country.
I had moments where I had to shut it too, and my daughter came up behind me like, "What are you reading, Dad?" Nothing.
Greek mythology. Mythology.
Oh, but she'd be like, "Oh, really? Let me see."
Margaret Thatcher on a Cold Night. This is so weird.
Oh, terrible.
Well, it is because at first So I know we're skipping to Dream Country, which, as English teachers has a lot for us to talk about with the Shakespeare and the man who, lives forever and meets Dream in the tavern every 100 years. That's a badass proposition. Yeah. I would do that.
I'm not going to die because I don't want to.
Yeah.
She's like, okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
What was that one called? Doll's House?
Doll's House is Volume 2.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing, I think, it's pretty strong overall. But that particular one that you just mentioned is a highlight within the entire series. When years go by, since the first time I've read this and I've forgotten most of it, that's one part I remember. The part where this guy and Dream and Morpheus meet once every 100 years in a pub. I just think that was such a fascinating, well done little short story.
Right.
I love that one.
Brilliantly character driven. We find out more about Dream and him trying to prod the human psyche into what the fuck makes you people work.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, nah, fuck it. But then eventually you see him crumble. Mm-hmm. But then he decides to build himself back up again and like keep at it, despite everyone he knows dying. And you know that I think it's maybe the third time or the second time, so he'd be like 300 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he's like, everyone I know has died.
Right.
My kids have died. I've seen my children, my family go away. I've moved to a different country because people are hunting me, and like they know I'm something weird. But fuck you, death.
Yeah.
Still at it.
That's a really cool story. I love that the guy's immortal, and what's really cool is like that in itself is a really neat self-contained kind of element.
Right.
But then that also pushes Dream's character development. Like, oh, I'm a friend of yours now. Like, don't you consider me a friend? And he's like, no.
Yeah,
and
he was
later on, he's
insulted.
like, yeah, I am. It's like because he shows up at that one point, like, if you're my friend, you'll be here in 100 years. And he shows up, and it's like, fuck. Well, there you go. He does have some of these emotions.
So it's both of those things. It's a great character study of immortality and the human psyche. It's a great character sort of evolution for Morpheus and his trying to understand and changing himself because of this friendship. But the predominant themes, what's always fascinated, why I, praise this series so much is because the predominant theme throughout is the idea of stories themselves. Mm-hmm. Stories roles in our lives, in our history, and he comes at it and he explores it in so many different ways all throughout the series. But that's another aspect of this story, too, because if you're paying attention, every 100 years that pass in the pub, some other historical thing is referenced or historical characters are present.
Right.
In fact, Shakespeare's there for one of them, and that sets up Midsummer Night's Dream in the next one because if you remember, Morpheus goes like to the side and has a conversation with Shakespeare.
Right.
Yeah.
But at every pub meeting, there's another historical thing happening. So history, mythology, stories, they all are a focus all throughout this series, and they're here in this one as well.
It's like Gaiman playing with the like his transcript from college. Like, oh, what courses do I want to dabble in and stuff with?
Oh my god, I felt so underread reading this because of the Greek mythology, because of the personification of human greed, desire, death, and all of that stuff with the endless. And then just everything woven in. To me, that's a good... If I feel inferior, that's a good story.
Yeah. But it also didn't feel like you had to have that background knowledge either.
True,
which is a good writing.
It was just a bonus if you knew.
That's right. You're right, though. I mean, it has lots of mythology. It has lots of religion. It has lots of history. It has poetry. I mean, as you read this series, it's just chock full of stories. Storytelling, what stories are... what stories are to artists and how they affect artists and how they affect society and, all that stuff. It's just, I mean, if you're like me, that's an endlessly fascinating theme. That one will get me every time.
That being said, I do have to take issue with the Midsummer Night's Dream sort of moment there. Because, first of all, shittiest Shakespeare play.
It is.
Fight me, everyone.
No, I'll agree with you.
I agree. I'll agree with that, but I'm also the guy.
Story.
I'm the guy who likes Titus Andronicus. So
well, okay.
Whatever.
Everything he wrote that was inspired by other people's work, brilliant.
Yep.
His own shit, what the fuck?
Well, yeah.
So I thought it was, to me, it was like, okay, I see what you're doing here, Gaiman. I get it. And I guess maybe being aware of it ruined it for me. I don't know. I didn't really like it.
I thought it was a little cool that Titania and Oberon actually showed up, in the audience to watch, and Puck was there, and Puck was like scared because it was like the gothic horror. Puck was scarier than I picture him, and he gets watered down in the actual play.
Right.
So he's like, "That's not me. I'm gonna fucking play me.
Yeah.
Get out the way, human." And he takes out the kid, and also we see poor Hamnet. In the whole thing, which, he probably was treated pretty badly in
Too
real
soon,
life.
Man. Too soon.
Too soon. Yeah.
soon.
It's only been a few centuries.
Yeah, that's still...
Can't be making jokes about that.
No, that poor guy.
Yeah.
His dad probably really fucked with his head, like every dad.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think the reason, if you're Neil Gaiman, the reason you pick this one is because of exactly... the fact that it was not based on any pre-existing story or history, because the idea is Morpheus was, made a deal with him and is it's supposed to be based on this fantasy element. And then, but for me, the real genius of that, and I love reading this is another highlight from the series, is all the characters that are in the play watching the play and commenting on it. Like you said, it's that metafictional aspect. That one always gives me a few laughs every time.
It does fit the idea of like these like projections of human ideas that become reality kind of thing better than any other Shakespeare play probably could have.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And
that if I can push the segue here.
Sure.
No bell.
Now I was waiting for something witty, but now I'm moving my.
But it gets to that last one, Volume 4 that we read, and getting into like hell and Lucifer and Catholic mythology and Paradise Lost and all this like shit that I was like, yeah, that's what I came for.
That's right.
I put on my friggin' bib there, tied up, and I'm like diving in with a knife and fork. Like that shit was fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
Everything from the androgynous angels to the to just the fact that Lucifer's just like, nah, fuck it, I'm done. And
yeah,
and then he's like,
you take the key to hell.
But wait a minute, I thought it was a ploy. No, he really said, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. So this brings us to like, what do you guys expect for the Netflix series? I watched the trailer, and yes, I did think it was Timothée Chalamet. Actually, before you had pointed it out, Sean, it's not.
Okay,
it's somebody else. You only see the moment where they capture Dream. And brief moments of his captivity. It's like a 1-minute trailer. So I don't know. You guys holding your breath? Are you going to watch the series?
Oh, I definitely am. There's still not a release date, and there's not a ton of information out other than that it's been filmed and it is coming out. But I've always wanted this. This has always been one thing I've read that I've wanted there to be either a movie or a TV show of. I'm fascinated to see how it turns out. I don't know what to expect because I feel like, when you think of so much of this series, it, would be hard to film in terms of like what would an audience actually sit down and watch, because so much of it is so brooding and meditative and philosophical. And, a lot of times, some of the highlights of the series are not things that would necessarily be obvious storylines or plots on TV. And so they'll have to do a lot of their own. I don't know if Neil Gaiman was actually involved in the writing. I have no idea about that.
I didn't look into the credits.
But they'll obviously have to take some of these stories and make them more, digestible for a TV audience. But I can't wait. I'm fascinated, and I'm hoping it's good. I hope they do it justice.
They did the right thing by not making it a movie. By going, I think
the episodic nature of comic books means
exactly, and most of the nerdy stuff that we love lends itself more to the long form storytelling of high value production TV, which I think this could be really interesting. I will definitely watch it just so that we can do another cast on it. But there you go.
That SEO, that search engine optimization.
Excellent.
There. Yeah. Speaking of bells, you guys ready for the lightning round?
Bring it.
All right. Just 3 questions. The first one is opinion, and I'm going to judge your answers.
Do you want to like buzz in or something? Like,
hit a bell. You can use my bell.
All right.
I got your bell?
Yeah, you can use my bell. It's tainted, I know.
I can ring your bell?
Hey. All right. First question. Who would you rather sleep with? Rose Walker or Calliope?
I believe it's pronounced Calliope.
Yes.
I am the guy who can't pronounce anything.
I shouldn't
anything.
I shouldn't say that though,
That's
since
fine.
You're judging our
Calliope.
answers.
Although,
fuck you. No,
I kind of want to call her Calliope now.
Calliope.
Yeah.
Calliope, and what was the last one that I was mispronouncing so badly? This is what happens when you only use whole word and not phonics instruction in elementary school. Me.
Oh, damn public education.
What was it
You
in?
could have blamed it on the absinthe.
It's fine. I've only had 2. All right, so you were saying?
I would go with Calliope because
she's been so used.
But that's what I was gonna say. Is like if I can get a best-selling author status out of it,
But you go crazy with the ideas and you can't stop writing ideas on your skin.
Yeah, whatever. I'm all right. I'm ready to be a one of those tortured artist types. That's cool. It's not my real personality at all, and if Calliope can make that happen, all right.
You can mail your thumb to me. It'll be cool.
What was the question?
Rose Walker or Calliope?
For what now?
So
who would you rather sleep with?
Yeah, Rose Walker was
Good luck.
the one in Dollhouse.
Is that the grandmother who fell asleep? Or?
Yeah, her grandmother fell asleep.
Oh,
because
her
Dream.
grandma.
She's the one trying to find her brother.
Oh, isn't she like 16 or something?
Is she?
She's a late teenager. It's not this.
Let's pretend I'll say she's 18.
Oh, okay.
You can consider
for the sake of this world.
We're going all snow crash here again.
I'll go with Calliope just to Just
Calliope.
To
No, I'm
just
just
to
kidding.
set her free.
Oh, you'd free her.
No,
You
fuck
love her
that.
so much. You too would get that multi-book deal, the Netflix series deal, and cash out. That's fair. I would do that too. Well, I guess you can both have a point. Take yourself.
All right.
Question 2. How many awards has Sandman won? The whole series, volume 1 through 10.
I don't know. Random guess. 8.
Mike?
I'm going to say
Closest wins.
7.
Without going over?
Neither of you went over. It's fine. It's 13.
All right. I win.
13.
I knew I had to be one above you or one below.
$1.
You did the
Bob.
prices right. Yeah, $1. All right, last question. Name as many names or titles for Dream as you can.
Dream, Morpheus, Sandman, Neil Gaiman.
They call him Dream Weaver
3.
at one point, right?
Yeah.
Lord Dream.
Yes. So you're to 4.
Uh-oh. I don't know.
I'm gonna presume you copy his first 3.
This is a good question.
You're forgetting the Greek one.
Oh.
Chiron? No.
No, that's time.
Yeah.
Wait, we said Morpheus already, right? Mm-hmm. That was not the Greek one?
Isn't it? Okay, so this is coming from the guy who fucks up every
Oberon.
pronunciation.
No.
It's not Oberon. It's like Onios or Wonios.
Oh, yeah.
Oneious.
Oh.
Right, because there's like the gate of like ivory horns and stuff.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
mythology.
He's also called Dream Shaper, Lord of Nightmares, Nightmare Bringer, and way later on in the series, he's called something like Marcus. We hadn't read that one.
I do not remember.
It's in like volume 8 or 9. He's called just some random human name.
Okay.
And they just kind of stick with it. Yeah.
Marcus.
I think Sean got you by 1 there, Mike. So we'll give
He
him
got me by a lot.
Thank you.
the bell. There we go.
Marcus, it seems like that's like the goth kid who goes by all these like I am Morpheus, I am Dream, and like Marcus, get over here and eat your
Marcus,
food.
yeah.
Marcus, finish your
Samuel
lunch.
Francis, get your ass in the seat.
I am Morpheus.
That's right. Well, actually, that's the next podcast.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed,
Let's not get too
indeed.
far ahead of
Well,
ourselves.
You know, a little crossover work
Yeah,
there.
so Sean has indeed won the lightning round for this time, but I'm
Sean
feeling Mike's
always
still pulling
wins.
out.
Have I
No.
ever won a lightning round?
Well, you know what? We haven't instituted a strict scoring policy, so that's not fair to say, because
I'm
I haven't
sure-
kept track of the winners and losers.
I'm sure our legion of listeners can tell us who the
They're all saying,
all-time winner
they're
is.
nodding right
That's
now
right.
in their cars, saying, that's
Indeed,
correct.
that's
Yes,
fair.
Sean has won all the lightning rounds.
Winning.
All right, so we've come to the end of the cast, gents. Are you a yay or a nay on this? I think, Mike, you've started a really good blog for us on our Nerds page, More Than Just Books. And you have a rating system for that stuff. What is your rating system? Can you explain this? And maybe we can incorporate that into the books
Well,
here.
I've given the impression that it's a whole like scale that's established, but
Sure.
I've really
I like your
only
faux scale.
I've really only out loud said the two ends of it, which are a bantha fodder and unlimited power.
Sure.
You know, Star Wars references.
I love it.
Yeah, and what would you say for Sandman?
I would give Sandman unequivocally unlimited power. As I said, I'm a sucker for the themes of storytelling and any storytelling that is about storytelling. I'm all in. I love that shit.
I guess
Sean?
if I could try to squeeze myself into Mike's rating here, I'll give it I have the high ground.
Oh, give up, Anakin. I have the high ground.
You know,
it's over.
It's good. It's worth the read
Sure.
for sure. I'd say read it. I just me personally, it didn't quite match up with what my expectations were, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It's just different from what I expected, which I think, I'd like to get back in and read some more of it. I thought it was a worthwhile experience.
I think you underestimate its power.
Yeah.
I certainly did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, well, you've got 6 more volumes to dive into. I am a yes as well. I am not just ultimate power, but maybe overpowered. I'm gonna create a, because I can, because I'm the guy with the timer here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say ultimate
captain.
power plus here. I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna finish the last 6 for sure.
Awesome.
So we are changing things up here at Nerd of the Old Republic, and we're giving you 2 for the price of 1. We're switching to a bi-weekly format, so catch our review of The Matrix Resurrections. I have a lot to say about this. And remember to check us out on the socials at Nerd of Old Republic and rate and review us wherever you hear us. That'd be a huge favor. Thanks, and stay nerdy, y'all.
Cheers.
Cheers.